Welcome back, and for anybody that's new, I'm Casey. So I truly don't know what this tool is called, and if you do know what it's called, please comment below. I would love to hear it, and I'll pin it so that way everybody else can know as well. Anyways, I had the materials laying around. I figured I might as well make one since I couldn't find one online. So let's get to it. Psst, let me know in the comments if you see the thing I snuck in at the end. This is a shaft I got out of that sewing machine that I recycled down. So I started off by running it in a drill in order to sand it up and get it polished. And then my thought here was to use the Dremel in order to make some indents, and that way the drill bit wouldn't wander as much. This was still extremely difficult. If anybody has any tricks on how to drill into a round object and have it come out better, let me know. I suppose I could have put it in the vise I have. Seemed like the simplest way to cut it off was to chuck it up in the drill and spin it. This seemed to work easy. I did have to break it off at the end. So I wasn't happy with the holes on this first one, so I made a second one and it turned out a little better. I made some marks on here with the Dremel to help it grip. I think the wood I chose for this is cherry. I'm not sure. It was in my scrap bin, which is a good reason why you always keep a scrap bin. If anybody else wants to make one of these, you could do it with different materials. It doesn't have to be the same materials. So this could have been a piece of branch, and actually that would have turned out kind of nice. I swear I'm so glad I live in a day and age where we have epoxies and glues. Such a game changer for makers. Some wipe on poly always seems to be a good choice. Actually, I think this wipe on poly is starting to become my favorite. Now I had some of this brass laying around. You could use other materials, but you'll have to figure out how to attach them to each other. So if you were going to go with aluminum, you'd have to figure out either how to use like an alumaloy or to weld it, and same with steel, you'd have to weld that. For this it's going to work nice because of the fact I can take and solder it together, and all you need for that is a torch. If you do go this route, be extra careful not to nick the different areas because it takes forever to get rid of any little nick. The amount of filing you see me do in this video isn't even a tenth of the amount of filing and sanding I did on this. Hey buddy, I'd like to see here. Right now I'm trying to sand down the profiles so that way they'll sit flat together when they're soldered. I believe that'll make a better joint. Alright, so now I'm going to take and put some flux on here and hopefully be able to solder these together. This is electrical solder that I'm using here, so it does technically have lead in it, but it's not like you're eating off of it. And I wet dry sanded it with 400 grit, and then I used a buffing compound later. The biggest challenge about brass is using just enough aggressive tool in order to get the work done, but then you want to try to avoid having to do a lot of cleanup later. I don't think I can state enough how much filing, sanding, grinding there is involved in this, but it was well worth it and it was fun. For those who don't have this tool or that tool, I feel your pain. I'm about to buff this thing without any power tools. I'm going to use this buffing compound I've had forever. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you watch this. Starting to get there. I have a feeling that I really made it hard for myself to video. These rigs really weren't the best for this, but I made do. Now, this tool has several uses, so let's check them out. So the first example is how I was introduced to this tool, which is with people with fences. You have this big long reel of wire, and basically you have one end that's going over towards your fence, and then the other end is this spool. Now you could take and cut it off with what you believe is going to be enough and then wrap it around by hand, which you tend to cut off more than what you need, and it tends to be a little difficult to do nice and neat. But the other option is you wrap this around and you have it nice and tight, and then you take your tool. I had to pick the coldest day to do this on. You pick your tool, and I'm going to try to do this where you guys can see it, and you just simply go like this. And there we go. Nice and neat. And it's so dang cold that it's going to stay on there. Let's go. For a demonstration, I'm going to attach these two together. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but it's just an example. So I got a piece of wire, and the wire is going to determine how strong of a hold it really is, because of the fact that you only want to go until you think it's going to break and stop right before that. Ideally, to make it really strong, you want to go around twice, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And if it looks like this is a bit of a fumbly process, it's because it is. For smaller wires, the wire can just simply be brought up in between the middle one if wanted. Otherwise, you can do the outside two, which is going to be the ones that are normally used. Alright, now I just want to take and thread the wires through each one of these outside holes. So now this piece is going to rest up against there, and then we're going to simply twist this to tighten it. When you get right here, you want to make sure that these go on the outside. Once you got that as tight as you'd like, now you just fold it over. I switched the orientation here so that way you could see it better. Now that's on there, and as you can see here, it even dug into the wood quite a bit. Making this came at a perfect time, as I needed it in order to extend the hose for our new washing machine, which the washing machine ended up breaking anyways, but at least it didn't leak. That's not going anywhere. Alright guys, if you're wondering why I went through so much effort for a tool, I feel like a tool should really feel good in your hands. You should like using the tool. It shouldn't just help you out. It should also have that sense of quality to it, and that makes it great. So that's why I went this extent. And I forgot how much I like working with brass, so I'm going to have to do it more often. I think that this is actually bronze, but anyways. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope you liked the video. Can't wait to see you next time.